In this lesson, we're going to be talking about branding yourself and selling via social media. And we're going to get into the best platforms to use, how to maximize your content, and get the best results. Not too long ago, I was exhausted from pretending, and I want to share this first because this was me 10 years ago, and to anybody looking, they would think, well, she looks like a happy pregnant person, but I want to share that that was not what was going on inside of me. This was about 10 years ago. It was before there really was social media. It was before I was a fitness and nutrition expert, and before I had branded myself online with social media, and this was me. I was pregnant here with my now daughter. And although I looked like I had this happy, perfect life at the time, I was anything but. It was a time in 2007 to 2009 when the stock market had crashed, the economy had changed, and I personally was pregnant and finding myself in a situation where I was going to be divorcing my best friend at the time. And knowing that I was pregnant and divorcing my best friend at the time, I also was in corporate America in a job that I traveled full time. And it was one of those jobs where I would get on an airplane every Monday and be gone throughout the whole week and come back on a Friday. And I was scared. I was scared about the economy changes, about being a newly single mom and not knowing how I was going to make ends meet and how I was going to do this all while traveling in corporate America full time. And I knew something had to change. And my almost rock bottom happened when I made the decision to take the voluntary job demotion. My then husband had moved out, and I had to make some tough decisions, including at the time stopping paying my mortgage. Now, if any of you watching have ever been in a financial hardship, you know it can overtake your whole life. And I went from this person that had always been really good with my finances, to not ever being in debt, to all of a sudden finding myself in a situation where I couldn't afford my own home. And it really hit me one day when I had my daughter in the car and I went to the gas station and I went to put my credit card in, and my credit card was declined, and that had never happened to me before. And I remember sitting there calling American Express and saying, why did you decline my credit card? I have never been late on a payment. I've never had any problems with this. And they said to me, well, you're $1.4 million in debt. And I want you to think about what that felt like for a moment. $1.4 million in debt. And that's what was showing up for me because I was unable to pay my mortgage anymore, because I was taking a job demotion, and because I was going through a horribly rough time. And it was super scary for me, as you can imagine, having this huge amount of debt over me, not knowing what was going to change. And I had also gained a lot of weight being pregnant and eating bad throughout the pregnancy from being depressed and sad. So I remember just feeling that I was at my worst rock bottom moment. I went home and I pulled out these magazines and I thought, you know what? I need to create some type of vision of where I want to go and what I want for my life, because I can't even remember what it would feel like to be happy and have a vision. So I started tearing out magazines and I created this initial vision of what I wanted for myself. And that's where a lot of this started. And I wanted to share this story first to show you that no matter who you are or where you're watching this from, that I came from a rock bottom place without money, without direction, without knowing what I was going to do before social media. And it all started with a vision of, I just want something better for myself. If you had told me at that time I would end up being a fitness authority on covers of magazines with best-selling books and so forth years later, I wouldn't have believed you. I was also in my late 30s at the time, and becoming a fitness model or an authority online with that was just not something that seemed possible. I want to share that it's all possible because years later I have over 2.5 million followers on social media and a full career out of what I was able to create for myself online. And it all started with this, and you might say, what is that green stuff? Because it looks like throw up, quite frankly. This is asparagus soup, and what does this have to do with anything? Well, when I was at my rock bottom moment and I was looking to recreate myself and I created a vision, one of the things I started doing was searching for healthy options, nutrition, recipes, ways to get myself back. And I decided at the time that if I could start sharing what I'm eating and what I'm creating with people, I would have accountability and I would be able to create something to help myself. I didn't go into it with, I'm gonna create a product, I'm gonna sell to people. It was more, if I could be accountable to an audience, it will help myself. So what I started doing at the time was Facebook had just really been launched, and I decided to my 100 social media friends on Facebook at the time that I was gonna start posting all of my meals, everything that I was eating. And I was just gonna share it for my own accountability. And that's what I did, including this green stuff. But what happened was, because I was being authentic and sharing a hardship I was going through and sharing what I'm really eating and really doing, people were interested and they wanted more. So I was connecting, and I'm gonna bring that word up again later because connecting is really important. But I was connecting with an audience without pretending to be anything, being authentic, sharing a hardship, and sharing what it is that I'm eating and doing to get myself back. And that green stuff later turned into a recipe book, and I'm gonna explain. So as I started connecting with an audience and relating to other people going through the same struggles, and they started asking me, what is it that you're eating? What is it that you're doing? How are you getting back? I continued to post my pictures, and I was asked to create a recipe book. And that is when my very first product was built. And it was just an ebook, and it's laughable now because I literally did it on a Word document in a weekend with my pictures from a BlackBerry cell phone, if you remember those. And I sold it for $12 online through my Facebook. It was my very first product. And I bring you back to that story because a lot of you watching, you're thinking, I'd like to sell online, I'd like to have social media, but I need this, I need that, I need all these finances. And I wanted to share that from my rock bottom place, just connecting with a few people on social media, being authentic and sharing, it created a need for something that became my first product. Now that product led to so much more later. And I had those same fears and thoughts before I launched it. People would say, well, I don't have a social media following. Why, who's gonna want this? But I wanted to share that I did this before I had a big social media following, just being authentic and sharing what I was actually doing. And years later, almost 2 million on Facebook, almost 100,000 on Pinterest, on Instagram, over 500,000, all because I connected and I was real with people at the beginning. And years later, able to transform hundreds of thousands of people through my fat loss programs. And I'm gonna share some tricks on exactly how to do this, being authentic and connecting. And I wanna share also that recipe book that I originally created from a BlackBerry picture on a Word document turned into a best-selling book years later. But it all started without money, without a lot of knowledge, and just connecting with people online. So here, you ready for those tricks and those lessons? Okay, the first thing is letting perfection go and making it not about you will change everything. As soon as you start connecting with people and you're completely authentic with where you are and what you're sharing, everything starts to shift and change. When you start connecting and sharing from where you are, people relate to you. When people just see perfection or a very well-produced product or advertisement or marketing, it could be very off-putting, but when they're connecting, they're more interested in you.